Economy in Distant Worlds universe. What is it? How do we interact with it? This is what we're going to talk about today. So to get right into it, there's a couple different buttons to go through to interact with your economy. Literally, a couple. 1 and 2. Let's start with the Empire screen here, which has a nice little economy tab. You can see there's 2 halves to your economy. The state economy and the private economy. You do not have direct control over anything happening in your private economy, nor do you want to have direct control. It's a very busy thing. So this is the simplest to explain. What is the private economy? The private economy is essentially an AI that plays half of your nation. It builds transport ships and other things that you design in the ship designer, or that you have the AI design for you. It uses these to move goods, move population, just move things around in general. It's what will handle trade with other nations and what will move goods between the different planets and stations within your empire, making sure everything always has the stock of every good and luxury item for every species that you have that you need. It'll generate revenue, and it will use this revenue in order to continue to build more ships and expand for peak efficiency. It will lose a lot of this revenue to colony taxes that you implement to move money from the private economy to your economy, the state economy. It will also have to pay its own ship and base maintenance as well as its own fuel costs. Now, the state economy is everything that you control. There's 2 sort of main sections to this. Everything above this line and what's under this line. What's above this line is the main thing you might be familiar with from other games. You have the amount of money you have right here. This is your cash on hand, which will appear at the top right as well. This is determined by your cash flow, which is this number, which will also be represented up here, which is determined by your annual income minus your annual expenses. Your income is determined by colony tax revenue and tribute from others, from subjects that you might have. The colony tax revenue is handled in this button up here, which we will look at. The tribute from others is entirely diplomatic, and it's something that you can get at the end of a war by asking for it. It is a way to end a war. The maintenance is pretty self-explanatory, all these expenses. Ship and base maintenance, all the ships and bases you have cost money. This is where you pay that money. Any land troops you have, this is where you pay it. Facility maintenance, things that you build on planets, this is that. Any fuel that you use, that's that cost. If you're a subject, and if you pay pirates any protection fees, all of it's counted here and attributed into your cash flow. But do not despair if you're running a negative cash flow, which if you're going to be militaristic, you almost certainly will, because there's bonus income. This is not income like the cash flow. It's not like a salary. It's not a revenue. It is a one-off income. What you see is what you have acquired, not what you do acquire or what you will acquire. It's what you have acquired in the year up to that point as a one-off bit of income, best judged really at the end of the year rather than at the beginning of the year to determine how this affects your cash flow. This comes from 3 different sources. Spaceports, which is primarily affected by everything going on at spaceports, like upgrades, like refueling, things like that, as well as foreign trade bonuses. So if you have any treaties with other nations like free trade agreement, mutual defense pact, etc., this will create bonuses that you will then benefit from. And resort income. So if you build any resorts, which is like its own building category, which you could find over here if you want to try to build any, then that's where that comes from. Resorts are just where population go to, be rich and wealthy and stare at a black hole and things like that. You can also see ship and base maintenance, the specific information of these things down here, where all of this is coming from, where it is going. And there's a lot of modifiers that affect this, including your government, through things like corruption, colony income, and maintenance costs can affect all of this. Now let's go ahead and look at the colony screen, where we have the different colonies. On this screen with our colonies, the most important thing to note is that we can set taxes over here. you can see our tax rate, sort by tax rates, sort by population, happiness, etc. An important thing to note is that these taxes are not on the income of a location or a population. It is on the actual generated GDP of a location. So however much GDP, also noted here as revenue, GDP revenue, these are the same thing here. However much GDP is generated by a colony, a percentage of it will be taxed into your income based on your tax rate. Every point of tax on average, not at all rates, lower rates it'll be like 2 to 1, but on average is like 1 to 1, with 1 tax point removing 1 happiness. What you want to do is manage to keep your population from going into negative happiness while getting as much taxes as possible. A higher happiness means more population will move from less happy colonies to your happier colonies, be they more or less populated already. So a good thing is to have colonies that are literally full to have as high of taxes as you can manage, and those that are brand new and have tons of space to have no taxes at all. Because, I mean, they'll barely have a GDP anyway. What are you going to tax? Especially because, and this could be handled mostly by the private economy, though you can make transports and try to handle this stuff yourself. The private economy will do it anyway. Resources appearing at colonies, plus certain facilities that you build at colonies, can affect its development level, and development level can increase the happiness of the population as well as the economic growth, allowing you to tax locations even more. You can even have characters like your colony governors or leaders adding to happiness in a colony as well, or removing it, which would influence how this all works. You could get more or less taxes out of every colony like this. Do note, tax has a compliance. The higher you make your taxes, or more specifically, the less happy everybody gets, the less they will comply with taxes, meaning you just will not get some of this. Some of it will just not be delivered to you, which is related to corruption. If you have corruption, which is, well, I mean, it's separate, but if you have corruption, this is GDP that's just disappearing. Any corruption is GDP that just disappears and doesn't get taxed, cannot get taxed, even with 100% compliance. How do you get rid of corruption? Well, you would need to build a facility. You would need to build a regional capital, which is under the high-tech research. We have planetary governance. This is how you can get a regional capital. You can get another one with regional governance, and then galactic governance to get another one. So spread those out, because they don't just affect where you put them, but they affect everything around it. So ideally, you should end up with 4 evenly spaced capitals for maximum efficiency when it comes to managing your empire and its taxes and its GDP. But you'll still have corruption to deal with pretty much no matter what, just variable amounts, and it's up to you what's an acceptable amount and where. The regional capitals, at least, can at least be deconstructed and moved elsewhere. Your main one can even be moved as well. You could set brand new capitals and really just base what's where on efficiency. Now, it's worth mentioning that every species also has luxury goods that are specific to them that will give bonuses to colony development and happiness as well. So always make sure you're going out of your way to find and acquire your species' luxury goods, and that of every race that is in your empire in any remotely sizable amount. Other than just looking around the map in general, when you're in the expansion planner, you could see exactly what has what and where for setting up colonies. But then you also have things like here, like potential mining locations that can show you different locations where you can mine as well. But your construction vessels, if you leave them automated, can just do a lot of that stuff for you. The transport of which goods would then be handled by the private economy. But that seems like a good enough beginner's guide for a little baby beginner. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. If you want to see any more guides, feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments below. If you want to see what guides I've made, then look in the description below for my playlist. If you have any questions I haven't answered, leave those in the comments as well. If I can't answer them, hopefully somebody else can help you with that answer. For now, though, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.